both. I saw on the website that your mom, so I'm guessing your mom like started the practice or she was
Yeah.
like running the practice?
Yeah. She started
Wow.
practice. We joined about 5 years ago, and she started the research company about 20 years ago. Yeah, when she 20 years ago is when she stopped delivering babies and just transitioned to gynecology. And since she had kind of more time on her hands, let's say, she kind of got more into research and learned it
Wow.
on her own and started it on her own. Yeah.
So we've got the Bedell Triplet OBGYNs. These
Mhm.
are all, each one's a OBGYN triplets. They all work at the practice New Age Women's Health in Miami, Florida. Uh, Both of their parents were OBGYNs. Their mom started the practice. Their mom started research. That's amazing. And you guys took over in 5 years ago, more or less.
I don't
But
know
we
about took
joined.
over, but we joined. Yeah.
You
Joined. Yeah,
joined.
our mom
Okay,
is
so she's
still.
still
Still,
running it. Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
wow. All right. My dad's a psychiatrist and he's the one who got me into research. So we got some
Oh, cool.
similarities. We got some similarity. I just didn't go all the way through to med school like you guys, but that's actually one of the reasons why I got into research. I tried to like kind of spice up my resume for med school cuz my grades weren't good enough, and then the business started calling. I started seeing like what kind of a business actually is if you run it. So I kind of fell into it by accident. Um, but you guys didn't choose like OBGYN by accident. How did that start? Like your mom and your dad, they start this practice, OBGYN. You guys, I'm guessing, very similar to me, like interning, shadowing there in high school, college a little bit, right? And how does that
Yep.
turn into like all of you guys go and become OBGYNs? So this is amazing.
Yeah, I think we all probably have a different version of the story. I mean, it seems like, well, yeah, of course we did. There was this, almost like not forcing, but heavy suggesting from our parents or something like that. And that actually was not the case. In my perspective, if anything, both of them were like, "Are you sure that's what you want to do? Are you really sure?" And for me, at first, I didn't think that I wanted to do it because I was always the kid who like almost fainted. I hate getting shots, hate getting needle, any of that stuff. I don't like blood, so I just assumed I wouldn't want to do something surgical. I thought about psychiatry for a good amount of time, but so I think we all knew we wanted to go to medical school very early on, but the specialty I think came later. In school, I still kind of carried that same thought. Okay, cancel all the surgical specialties and see what's going on with non-surgical options, and then actually going through the courses, actually going to the hospital, seeing patients, kind of realizing like, actually, I really like taking care of women. I think there's something unique about the personality. I like having conversations with them. No offense to men, but they seem a little easier to kind of take care of. They're motivated at maybe being a female myself. I see it differently, but motivated, I think, a little more to take care of themselves. Of course, our field naturally has a lot of privacy to it. And so I appreciated the comfort that I was allowed to offer, and I appreciated the trust that patients would give to you in that specialty on its own. Having babies is also usually a happy time in someone's life, and all that, and being part of that and offering continuity of care, I really liked. Plus, also, honestly, your day to day is relatively predictable, despite what most people say about OBGYN, in that I can definitely come to work knowing that most of my patients will be healthy. And I really like that. A lot of counseling, a lot of preventative care. And I really kind of learned like seeing a lot of patients who are really sick. That is its own thing, not my vibe overall, or something that I really can do every day. So I like that kind of seeing healthy women definitely attracted me. And seeing that my parents had done it, could do it, could balance their life, definitely in the background, that was always going on with, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. And I just really didn't think about it until school, like medical school, actually.
Hmm.
That's my story.
What about you guys, Sarah, Vicky?
Pretty similar, I'd say. Another aspect of the field that I enjoy is you can follow a patient throughout their life. You can start seeing them when they're 15, 16, and then see them until they're 85. Yeah. And it's a good mix of fine. I guess for the most part, it is a little bit predictable, but it has a good mix of procedures. Um, you get to be an expert about one area, and there's a lot of variety within that area. So it really is a unique specialty. You get to do a lot. Yeah, and I would kind of say the same things as they did. I don't have a ton to add, but yeah, the interest definitely was heavily influenced by our parents, sure, and just a natural kind of inclination towards science, and that's what we liked, and that's what we were kind of better at in school, I guess.
Mm.
And then in medical school, kind of going through all the different fields, it was nice to finally be on the OBGYN rotation and not feel like we were starting from zero. Like, okay, this is a little bit familiar. I'm used to, these types of findings and these types of patients, and just kind of grew to really want to do that.
Did you guys do same undergrad school, same medical school, all that?
We all
Yes and
went to
no.
the same college, and then Joanna and I went to medical school together. Sarah was separate, and then we all went to different residency trainings in different states, let alone
Yeah,
different cities.
because
So,
that would be very unusual to all get matched in the same place.
yeah, we thought about it at first, but
Yeah.
then realized like that's not happening. So,
Yeah, the probability of that's like almost zero for that happening.
yeah.
But that's crazy. I have to ask, like in
Yeah.
college, did you guys take tests for each other and stuff like that? I'm sure you've been asked before.
No, we were good kids. No.
Wow.
Yeah, our parents were scary, and we were always afraid of getting in trouble. So we never, we never did anything like that.
Wow.
Everyone's
And
disappointed to hear that, though.
yeah, I had to ask. And then when you all finished med school and finished residency, was your plan always, hey, you know what, we're gonna help the family business? Or did you guys have other plans? Like, what was that like?
Well,
I think we knew that we always wanted to practice in the same city and definitely live close and, maintain that. Um, as far as was it Miami for sure? No, that wasn't definitely part of the plan, but the closer we got to graduation and kind of figuring that out, like, hey, we actually do have to come up with a plan now. It kind of seemed like, hey, our mom has a really good setup. Like, I'm certainly very attached to Miami in a lot of ways. Our family lives down here. Um, and realizing, oh, so we could just kind of join a practice. Like, what other practice is going to hire 3 brand new OBGYNs all at the same time, all same kind of skill level? That's a hard thing for other groups to take on. Or we could start something completely from scratch ourselves, but hey, our mom already did that. Like, it really was just kind of a good fit for sure, and met all of our needs. Yeah, it made sense.
What about research? So how does research come into play? Because most of all my audiences are researchers or aspiring researchers. There are a lot of physicians watching that are kind of sitting on the sidelines. Maybe they have a private practice and they're curious about starting their own site. And one of you guys, I think Joanna, approached me on Instagram and said, "Hey, you know what?"
It
Oh,
was
really?
Vicky.
Okay, Vicky. Sorry. Vicky approached me and, trying to figure out, okay, well, what are some ways to expand your research and kind of you want to expand, but you want to stay within the confines of OBGYN, which makes sense. So, there are potential to also expand into other therapeutic indications, which we can get into later. But you said your mom started the research, so was there already like an established customer base as far as sponsors interested in your site? And is your site a different business or is it part of new separate?
Separate business. I think one of her first sort of introductions to research was actually some type of like tissue procurement project where somebody approached her just knowing she saw a high volume of patients on the labor floor. They were interested in collecting placenta samples, basically, of which otherwise would have been discarded in the hospital. And so it started really as a side project. And when we were in middle school, she would bring home these samples and keep them in the freezer after she had kind of sterilized everything in the office as like a storage area. And to be honest, she realized, oh, this is actually really easy to do. It's just a matter of consenting, gathering. I have the time, I have the organization, and
patients are willing.
lucrative. And she's a very organized person, like almost pathologically so. And I think probably a lot of, if not the majority of people that go into research are. And so it was a really sort of quick, easy kind of met all of her her skills really allowed for it to go well. And so and then she got a lot of patients and did it well and they liked it, and then it sort of became uh, tissue projects sort of beyond that, all related to women's health for patients she already had in the office of, yeah, I see 20 patients a day. Oh, they need pap smear samples. Sure, let's do it. And then I think eventually somebody referred her either to a sponsor or a CRO that they had a good relationship with. And because it's always, how do you get the first trial without having experience? And so she sort of proved herself with these smaller projects and then got recommended for something else. Yeah. And worked really hard, like, would be awarded one study and worked really hard to just maximize enrollment with those, and her having access to her patients who had a long-term relationship with her. They trusted her opinion. She was able to counsel them easily and talk about the benefits of joining, right, and was able to get patients that way. So one by one, trial by trial, she was just slowly proving herself.
That's the way to do it. Find that first study. It's going to be like a registry study or a phase 4 observational,
Right,
or in your
yeah,
case, a sample study
yeah.
for cord blood or for placental tissue. So yeah, this is kind of how you get started. And then do you guys have like study coordinator working for you? And what is the setup for the research site?
So right now, in the last couple of months, for reasons beyond my understanding, it has really exploded. I think really mostly with word of mouth. So we just hired a new coordinator. It's actually our first male in the office. Yeah. And so him. We have
I think we have 4 coordinators now.
And then
Wow.
we have one person strictly for data entry, one scheduler, one lab director, we'll call her, and the data entry employee also crosses over into the lab, and then one site director who we actually
Oh,
promoted.
you have a site director.
But that's only recent in
Just
the last
this
couple
year,
of months, because it really called for it.
Hmm.
We were doing all of a sudden sort of 6 studies at once. Because it was sort of COVID kind of paused everything, or there was a lot of build up to some studies that then just didn't happen. And then we were reaching out to companies and saying, put us on the list for this. We're very interested in doing it. And the majority of those came through, and sort of all of a sudden we had 5, 6 studies at once. So really in the last few months, it's expanded, but last year, kind of in the trail ends of COVID, it was a little slower.
Yeah, COVID I noticed, I started my new site last year as well here in Yuma, Arizona. I had another site in the LA area. But the wife and I moved here to Yuma. This is where she's from, and we started a site. It's really underserved area, but we got also like 6 studies in our first year, and I have 2 coordinators now. Now I'm the site director instead of the like everything. Now I'm site director, and pretty soon I hope to replace myself in that aspect too. Um, how do you guys decide who's going to be the PI? Do you flip a coin or how?
It depends. Well, for the most part, we still see patients in our gynecology practice. We actually stopped obstetrics about a year ago, partly for personal reasons, but also with a plan to expand the research business more and be available for that. So usually it's our mom is the PI, just because she has more time to sort of do those duties. Although we do have a study coming up that I'm going to be the PI for the first time, just because it's for a skin disorder of the vulva that I happen to know the most about in the office, and so it just seemed more appropriate for me to be the PI with that, because I'm the only one in the office that sees those types of patients. But otherwise, it's usually our mom, and we're sub-Is, but that's mostly time related.
I see. So sub-investigators for the most part, but sometimes PI when it's appropriate, like if it's a specific niche that one of you guys are the experts on, right? More or less.
Mhm.
what kind of studies are you guys seeing lately? Like, you don't need to get into specifics, but like, what are you seeing like a trend in the OBGYN space?
Definitely, yeah. Our bread and butter for sure is contraception. Um, yeah. Also, what we get a lot is vaginitis, like yeast infections, BV, chronic vaginitis, things like that. I think are by
Yeah,
far most common.
and menopausal management, so
Yeah, and menopause management.
flash trials.
I see. And what about vaccine studies? I've noticed a trend
One,
in
yeah.
child or like pregnant vaccinations, right? Like RSV comes to mind. I have a colleague in
Mhm.
LA who actually he's a OBGYN and he took on one of these studies and they had to get cord blood samples. It was an entire ordeal. We actually got offered that same study. I don't know if you guys get that one. We got offered that study here, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have a relationship with OBGYN in my new town
It's
yet.
possible. Yeah, maybe we were offered at some point. I admit I don't specifically remember, but since we've stopped our obstetric practice for now, yeah, we can't do that. But we have done. We also do like sample procurement still, like the
Mm,
same way our mom would collect placentas, and whenever that happens. And at the time when we had pregnant patients, yeah, they wanted ones who had blood pressure issue or XYZ within a pregnant patient that we were collecting serum samples for.
mm.
Um, yeah, but it's hard when you don't have, you know, how do I say it? Like it's a lot easier if you already see those kinds of patients anyway, way easier to help recruit for that type of a study.
But we did do a CMV
Yeah,
vaccine
we did
study. Now
one.
that was back in,
That was maybe 2 years ago, three.
yeah,
Do
mhm,
you
yeah.
know like are those do you think this mRNA platform, like this technology, do you think they're gonna keep building on that? Or like after
Yeah,
COVID, or do you think like they're rethinking that now?
Yeah, I think so. If
definitely.
anything, the latest data has showed how effective they are, how quickly they can be manufactured. I mean, especially when you have the whole world working on it, but they're really the whole world was working on it or is working on it in the last couple of years. So there's a lot of data. So that should keep going for sure.
Yeah, I think one issue though is, you know, well, how much brain power, manpower do we need to kind of reinvent the vaccines that already exist? So that might be one of the limits, but in general, for yeah, as far as from here on out, it's absolutely going to be a big player. Yeah,
Yeah, I tell everyone who is thinking about a career in research, whether they're a clinician or somebody that wants to be a coordinator or CRA, I think like this mRNA alone, however, regardless of how you feel about it, it's very polarizing. I think they're going to keep improving it. I think that's enough to keep the industry busy for the next decade, if not longer. Just that alone.
yeah. Oh yeah, or even just vaccine follow-up, antibody measurements, what else can the,
Long
things
term,
like that.
yeah, there's a lot of different aspects that can be tracked.
Do-
Mhm.
what do you guys have plans for like expansion? Do you ever see yourself expanding into other therapeutic areas?
So, yeah, so we're trying to do that a little bit, and we've started to seek out obesity trials that are maybe related to a GYN condition. So, PCOS or polycystic ovary syndrome can be associated with metabolic syndromes and things like that. Especially with there's a lot of awesome weight loss drugs, and just part of what sparked this is honestly half of the patients that we see in our GYN practice are always saying, I can't lose weight. I'm struggling with weight loss. And so it's just something that it seems like the population is very interested in. And in the last few months, there's been a lot of new, I think it's sub Q injections related to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
So
long acting.
it's sort of the perfect storm of this is something that our patients need and would be interested in. Right, recruitment would be a no-brainer for that,
Oh yeah.
and they seem to work really well, and it could help a subset of our population already. So um, we would be certainly willing to do other non-women's health studies if we feel like we could do a good job at it, which is mostly recruiting a lot of patients, but ones that would also stay in the study and be motivated. So weight loss seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, weight loss is one thing my PI really wants me to get more of, and they get bombarded with reps that come in. Now
Mhm.
they're all doing the diabetes subacute
Yeah.
injections. being used off label for weight loss, and I know they're doing some studies for that. And it's just interesting to see how all these things kind of like related to, like you said, obesity and
Yeah,
inflammation.
they work really well. The data is really good. They cause either some wildly high numbers, 15 to 25% weight loss that's sustained over a year. And so very few diets can do that. It's like they do work really well, and I think part of what will motivate people to be in studies now is those medications are really new, so they're also really expensive. So even if they qualify, insurance isn't covering it yet, and so they're even more motivated to be in a study.
Or otherwise, they'll take a really long time to get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Two other things that besides mRNA that I think are going to keep this industry relatively recession proof and relatively busy, monoclonal antibodies. I'm
Yeah.
noticing that in derm a lot. Like I have a derm PI and we're seeing a lot of MABs, obviously oncology. What about OBGYN with MABs?
Not that I'm immediately aware of. It's funny that you say that. My husband is a pathologist, so he's a whole other breed of medicine of what he ends up seeing. But yeah, he's been mentioning that to me a lot. How it really has revolutionized a lot of different types of cancer therapies, autoimmune conditions that we're learning more and more have different presentations than we think, or a lot of GI disorders and things like that. So the use for that is huge. I have yet to hear of some kind of magical condition for OBGYN that I'm aware of that maybe it would perfectly fit into. But in general, outside of our field, yeah, I agree. Huge potential and has changed a lot of different conditions. Mhm.
Yeah, I think so. I was
Absolutely.
just curious because I know like I keep hearing that and like from different specialists now too. So I was just I had no idea if OBGYN's also on that bandwagon yet or not. Maybe. Do you think there's potential there? Like for something just off the top of your head or
It could be. It's hard to come. There aren't a ton of true, like at least
True.
autoimmune conditions that.
Maybe for lichen sclerosis and some type of like, because that is an autoimmune skin disorder of the genitals, and so it's very very specific. But otherwise, I don't think there are a whole lot of other strictly GYN conditions that are autoimmune based, or have like this huge immune basis.
Mm.
Yeah,
Besides maybe some
things like lupus and Sjogren's syndrome affecting the vulva, but it's not like a primary.
or like hidradenitis suppurativa, like other skin condition, which inherently on its own, there's some overlap, kind of like lichen sclerosis. Well, kind of, there's some overlap with GYN, but is it exclusively handled by us? Definitely not.
Dermatological stuff that happen to also involve the
There's
genitals.
some overlap, yeah.
Yeah.
What so as far as like Miami, I don't know if you guys are aware, but sponsors must love you because Miami doesn't have the greatest reputation for research.
We're aware.
Uh,
Yeah.
I tell everyone who's a client of ours, like, you know, if you're anywhere else besides Miami, we could probably get you a study in 3 months. If you're in Miami, it's like 6. It's like double, just because it's so saturated with sites. But it's missing, I think, like it's missing sites like you guys have, like built into a practice. It's really like the way I see your practice is the practice first, that's the foundation. And then you have research where you have some patients who are appropriate. They can do the research studies. I think that's what sponsors want. And in Miami, for some reason, you just have like a research site on every corner. It's like 7-Eleven
Like
almost.
pills, yeah.
I know. Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, we try to think about it too. Like, what is it about our site that they didn't choose? Well, you can kind of see, well, they chose that site sort of down the street. Why are we not better? Yeah,
So do you have a lot
I
of
don't know.
competition like OBGYN or out there in Miami?
So there are some, there are a lot of OBGYN practices in our area, and they dabble in research. They don't really have sort of as established of a thing that we do. And so every once in a while, because you can see on clinicaltrials.gov like which sites are doing it, and every once in a while we're like, wait, they got this study and we didn't, and
Yeah.
ours has
Yeah.
this big setup. And I don't know what the trick is. Maybe you can give us some insight there, but I don't know what, because for the most part, we have a big office, like we have a lot of space, and we have a lot of staff, and we're very friendly. So we always joke that if we can just get them to do a site visit or just come see our office.
Oh yeah, we have lists, like we keep databases that are like pages and pages long of people we know are willing to, like, we just call them and they want to sign up for whatever.
We're already keeping a list for obesity trials in case we
Yeah.
actually get it.
Yeah. So, you know, I'd be hard pressed to feel like other sites that are just dabbling, like we said, really do that. Like, is their mindset really focusing on this?
Yeah.
And so,
And you have
yeah, it's hard
generational.
to
I mean, yours
understand.
is like a generational company. It's not like it just somebody created one overnight. You know, it's like it's been going on for generations. I always tell my PI, and then I do want to get into your operations and like the database and all that stuff. But with my PIs, you know, they tend to ignore. I don't know if ignore is the right word, but sales reps come in and they just kind of sign their iPad and leave. And I tell my PI actually yesterday, I said, "Hey, I know this sales rep's been coming here forever. Have you ever met the medical liaison?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, that's you can get research studies through them." So I think I don't know if you guys are doing that yet, but that's one way you can go about it is ask those sales reps, "Hey, you know what? Like, thanks for the coffee. Can you introduce us to your MSL? I think they would love us." And then the MSL would be interested because you guys prescribe and you can do research. They're kind of looking for their next key opinion leaders. You guys would be great for that. Like even just take the triplet thing aside. You know, just the fact that you're practicing in Miami, OBGYN very focused and doing research. So you have big practice, potential for doing big research. I think just more MSLs, getting them to tour your site, you're just planting seeds. I think that's one way that is often overlooked. And I don't know if you guys are doing that, but you probably should. Like all those sales reps that come in, get the MSL.
We're writing this down now.
Yeah, get it works. I got basically like they won't do this to you because you're the doctors. But yesterday my PI didn't want to do it, so he sent me in there to talk to the sales rep. And the sales rep, you know, basically brushed me off. She's like, "Oh, I've been doing this for 30 years and no one ever asked me this." And I told her, "Well, I'm asking you, and you know, my PI wants to do research. He's prescribing a big prescriber." And she's like, "Well, give me your business card and I'll see what I can do, but I can't promise anything else." But if it was you guys asking, a totally different story, right? Like they have to do it, and then you could follow up. And there's like what 20 companies that probably see you guys on a regular basis, if not more. So that's 20 medical science liaisons. It may take a few years to get those studies going, but
Yeah, whatever.
it's planting seeds.
Mhm.
So that's one thing I think you guys should do. Conferences, do you guys do any? Miami has a bunch.
What type of conferences?
Well, you can do like the OBGYN conference, but you can do like the research conferences too, like Society of Clinical Research Sites, ACRP, those kind of conferences, like the big ones. You can do that. DIA, Bio, those are big ones too, but also OBGYN, then you can meet all these MSLs also. That's another way to do it. And I know like a lot of those fly by night clinics in Miami, they don't do that stuff. So you know, they're just kind of looking for the quick monetization. And the sponsors are looking like who's actually here for the long run.
Yeah.
So those are some things that we advise our clients to do as well. But the MSL thing, trust me, that's the easiest thing you can do and it's going to work. Just give it like a year or two. You'll start getting studies just off of that alone.
Yeah.
What about operations, guys? Like let's you kind of broke down your structure. So you have data. It seems like it's very streamlined, right? You have a data manager for data entry. You have a lab person. You have somebody who schedules. I'm guessing they're like a pre-screener as well. Like they're looking for people who qualify. What kind of tools do you guys use? Are you guys paper source? Are you guys e-source?
So we do. So that could use, I guess, some work. And we use, at least for data maintenance, we just use Excel. and then yeah, that's primarily it. We
I
actually
think Vicky was asking
Call
me
it old
about this
school. Say it.
actually.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was asking. Yeah, I reached out because I was asking about Ripple. Yeah, and we had another meeting today, or like pitch from Ripple.
Pitch, yeah.
We also don't want to, we are busier now, and so we don't want to overwhelm all the staff with like, here's a brand new system, just use it.
Yeah.
So we use it piecemeal, and so we really have no organized way of doing recruitment now, because we mostly haven't had to. We've been recruiting our GYN patients, and then now we've had this influx of friends bringing their friends and referrals and stuff like that. So yeah, I think for the first
Yeah, and even just more than one study at a time. Yeah, we used to maybe 3 studies at once was a lot. Average was 1 or maybe 2 at a time for a long time. So yeah, now that we have more, yeah, we have used Facebook ads a little bit, but yeah, word of mouth, at least in Miami, I don't know, is huge.
Yeah, no, word of mouth is huge anywhere. There's a few systems I was telling Vicky. One is Creo. We use Creo. It's a paid product. The other one's Viva, which I'm debating about experimenting with. Viva, Veeva. They're huge. They're publicly traded. They're like $20 billion market cap. They're offering a free eSource soon. They have eReg, and they're gonna do eSource. They're playing the long game. Like they want to give this tool to the sites for free because they want to let all the sponsors know, hey, you guys are gonna pay us for our systems. The sites are gonna use it. They're already using it. So those are 2 options. I haven't played around with Viva too much. I will soon. But Creo does have like a database for patient where you could put patients in the database. But you can always just kind of have your own database too. Like if you have a eSource or an EMR for your private practice, you can. There's probably ways to make research. Otherwise, you can just use Creo or Viva for that as well, or Salesforce. You can buy something like Salesforce and just put patients in there just for research purposes. Salesforce is good too. So there's several options. I was just curious because when I started my site here, I started with eSource, eReg just off the bat because I knew once you train staff, then to switch after you've trained them, it's really tough. So I knew coming out here, like it's just me. I'm gonna do eSource, and then my staff, they don't even know that there's paper in research. Like they barely even realize that. Yeah, back in the day we used paper source, and we still use a little because some of our doctors prefer paper, and then we just upload it to the system. But I think that's kind of the future. Paper source is good too. It's easier to streamline the database, especially like patient database, if you have some kind of system integrated with eSource. It just makes life a lot easier. No headers, no more headers, no more like missing dates, e-signatures for everything.
Yeah.
So PI oversight's great. You just click a button and like you see everything there. You just scroll, click a button, and you've e-signed a chart or a visit. So it's really cool for that. Like one of my PIs really loves it. My other one's old school and just signs everything by hand.
Yeah, I think honestly, for the most part, Excel and just maintaining good paper charts was working for a while, but just the volume, it kind of outdoes itself at some point, and just managing that whole
And
patient list. Excel get humongous, and it's
it gets tougher, especially if you're gonna start expanding. But yeah, just some things to think about. But I had questions about that. And then how about staff turnover? Like I was going through a period where I just couldn't find. There was a labor shortage. We went through like that little period. I don't know if we're out of it. It seems like we're out of it. The labor shortage, at least over here where I'm at. I don't know. Are you guys having a hard time finding people?
Same thing. A couple of the new people that we've hired were from word of mouth. Like one of our coordinators years ago left nicely for another job, and then was unhappy there and wanted to come back, and at her other job had met several other people that she trusted and liked to work with, and kind of convinced them to come to us. So that in that way, word of mouth was very helpful. Like someone that a trusted employee trusts, that's good. But it seems like the pool is kind of small for
Yeah,
sure.
but
Yeah.
we haven't had a lot of turnover. One
Yeah,
of our
not a lot of
partners
turnover.
working here almost 8-9 years, and Valerie's probably 7 collectively. And then the other coordinators, one of them was a medical biller in our GYN practice. Yeah, that started from scratch. And then, yeah, our lab director is her sister. And yeah,
Wow.
so we kind of are more like a family here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we really haven't had a lot of turnover. And for a while, we haven't really been that busy. So we have hired a couple people. Yeah.
It gets harder when you get busier.
Yeah, I think certainly the next thing that we need, if not another coordinator, is a dedicated recruiter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can give tips on who the best person is to hire there, if it's smart or not smart to start with someone who seems smart but no experience, or picks and then you can mold them, or I don't even know.
Yeah, I always go smart, no experience, like MA. I love MAs, CNAs. I think for patient recruiters, for regulatory, for study coordinators, you can get a really good and train them yourself. We have CRC Academy if you need help with training them, but MAs, CNAs, I love them. And of course, you'll hire like the newly graduated, from college when you find a promising one. I almost never hire someone with research experience because they usually bring bad habits with them too, and I don't like that. I like for me to train them on how we want to do it, and I don't care how your site did it.
Yeah.
I care how we want to do it. Also, international medical grads are really good too. And
Mhm.
Miami has a lot of those. So that's
Yeah,
probably your
Mhm.
advantage.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's gonna be nice to follow you guys around. Your Instagram's really cool. Keep it going. Um, would be nice to do like follow-ups and maybe take a tour of your site one day and just
Sure.
let Guru Nation kind of learn more about you guys. But I think it's a really cool story. I think just keep it up. If you don't have a TikTok, you should. Somebody needs to
Oh
maybe give
man,
that role to like
I
Fire
the
know.
learning how to use TikTok.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, not like I feel old, but I feel like,
We're
oh, we
borderline
just missed.
millennials, so
Yeah.
get whoever you hire for patient recruitment, get them because that's your next hire. Get them to manage your TikTok and Instagram stories and just make it part of their daily task.
that's a good.
Because they'll do it, and I mean, you get plenty of good content, and you can. I don't know the rules so much as far as like getting patients on videos. I've put patients on videos before, but I always get their consent on camera. But
Mm.
just from like the staff, like just you guys, there's 3 of you guys and your mom. That's 4 doctors, 4 clinicians that you have content for. Like you can almost do every day of the week with just one of you guys talking about something else. So that's like there's a lot of things you guys can do to like really blow up your research site in a good way. And I'd be excited to follow you guys and learn more.
I'm trying to think if I
Yeah.
have any other questions for you.
You guys do does anyone publish papers or anyone nerd out on this stuff?
Yeah,
Not me.
we've all
Yeah.
published stuff. I haven't done that kind of research in a while, but yeah, we're all published.
Okay. Because
I
that
know.
works too. That works for the B2B side, like attracting more sponsors. And then obviously the TikTok stuff is for B2C. But I think having like both of those is really good. There's a doctor I want to introduce you guys to. She's in Malibu, Dr. Sabine Hazen. She reminds me a lot of you guys. She's not a triplet, but she reminds me, she might as well be because that lady does like 3x what most people do. I have to introduce you to her.
Sure.
She does publishing, and I think her daughter runs her TikTok or something, but she's really cool. And she does research too, and she's a sponsor. So she nerded out so much that she created like a sponsor company, and then I was her CRO at one point. So with her sites, she'll do like traditional studies, but for when she's the sponsor, she's the site as well. and then she needs a CRO, like an external party, to come in and audit, and that's what I was doing. So she's somebody that you guys can also network with too
Sure.
on
Yeah.
different coasts.
Yeah.
Sorry, one question for you. What software do you recommend to manage Facebook ads? I've heard good things about LeadsBridge.
For Facebook, I used to do it myself, and Facebook's cool because it's Instagram rolled into it. I have a company called Crankworks. It's run by a guy out in Canada. I actually just had a Zoom with him before we started ours. So he's running our Facebook ads. He's going to start running our ads for the osteoarthritis study that we have. We have a new osteoarthritis study, but he's been running our ads for the CRA Academy, the CRC Academy. He's been doing our website. So I don't know what he uses. He showed me something just now called Zapier, Zapier.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I literally just saw it, so I can't forget it. It was just an hour ago. But I've outsourced that. Look, I've tried to do that. You're gonna have way better ROI just outsourcing that to someone else. I've tried to do it myself. I got in the weeds. I've tried to hire like semi-pros, which is okay. The semi-pros kind of run our stories, like all the stories you see on my Instagram. If it's not me, it's somebody else posting. Like we have a schedule, so that's okay. And that could be like the person you hire for patient recruitment. You can delegate that to them. But when you're actually putting like your credit card down to pay for campaigns, I would hire like a professional company. These guys are good. I'm happy to make an introduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consider that.
Yeah, I've tried, and it's very difficult, and I do not get the results that they're able to get, and I don't do anything like
Right.
so you can't beat that. You just pay, and oftentimes these sponsor, you just pay them from the budget they give you,
Right. Yeah.
and if it works, you can just ask them for more, and they'll give you more. It's a crazy industry we're in.
Yeah. Totally. And
Yeah.
a lot of things that we are yet to learn.
Yeah, and
but
you learn none of this in medical school.
oh
No.
no, what do you?
Zero.
You
We
know,
didn't have any clue that this was even a possibility, except our mom already figured it out and had it. Honestly.
yeah, or like maybe you get into maybe some very academic type research, or not necessarily bench research, but that is a very different thing than what we do, like actual clinical research. Yeah.
That's
Even
a whole
if you do
another
that in
podcast.
school, you don't really think that can translate to a private practice. So
That's a whole another podcast. But yeah, I mean, since we're on that topic, like, what do you guys think about large healthcare systems kind of taking control of medicine? And they're trying to take control of research, but it's not working. Go figure why it's not working.
you
But
mean like private hospital conglomerates and
yeah, like Dignity Health, Kaiser Permanente getting into, or like just hospital systems like UC, LA. I mean, I feel like there's a magic when combining like a small mom and pop with research. I think you guys are way more efficient. I don't know, by whatever metrics anybody wants to use to compare two sites, I guarantee you the smaller site is more efficient with the resources they deploy and the outcomes they achieve for their efforts than these large systems. There's so much waste, and the bigger they get, the more waste there is, to the point where nothing's actually done, and they just get government grants. That's like the ultimate pinnacle of waste.
Oh yeah, definitely a mix of issues. I mean, I came from a smaller hospital where I trained, but at least the pressure almost seemed like was on the doctors to come up with an idea for a project, start to finish, obtain IRB approval. And typically it's for some very esoteric thing and not necessarily something that's widely applicable, something that probably requires inpatient care, which is not the majority of medical care. And oftentimes the people that you're working with, either residents or whoever, are turning over to recruit patients, or you're perhaps using recruiters or whatever your staff is offsite and not directly involved with patient care. There seems to be such a big disconnect, not just between the conditions they want to research, but also patient access in general, versus like a site where, yeah, we're literally in it. I walk to this half of the office versus that one. I'm on the research side, my clinical side, and can mix those in a second. Whereas I don't know how else to describe it, just the kind of burden of that seemed like a lot, but mostly it just seemed like the conditions that they were studying are not, at least in OB or GYN, were not hugely common. So that's my
The
comment on
industry's
that.
answer, the industry hopes that decentralized trials will leverage big systems by using tech tools to somehow get patients. They still haven't figured this out. They're going to use tech to leverage big systems to get their patients into studies. But patients don't trust pharma. They never have.
Right.
They trust even less now. But they trust people like
Yeah.
you guys, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
That part, no, you're right. That I don't even think about is huge. Yeah. Trust of like a big hospital. It's like, what is this hospital? What is their actual motivation? Yeah.
or Walgreens.
It's different
Like
than
now
someone
the
we have a
whole thing,
relationship with.
all the headlines now are Walgreens and CVS are getting into research. I'm not worried at all. Like people ask me, well, oh, they have huge data, but yeah, they probably have 25% of everyone in the country. Who cares? So what?
Right.
Would you guys respond to a text from Walgreens right now if they text you right now? You wouldn't respond.
No.
And we work in the industry. So there's no way that these guys are displacing like actual clinicians in the community who actually care about their patients. I mean, this is the same Walgreens that partner with Theranos.
I
This
was
is the
just gonna
same,
say that.
yeah, the same Walgreens
Yeah.
where you wait in line to get your insulin and they're selling you chips and soda. Like
Yeah.
Right.
how do they have patient trust but you guys don't? Somehow you're inefficient. I could go on forever about this, but I just wanted your guys' thoughts on that.
Um, yeah, I guess honestly, like things are going pretty well here with our system. I don't know.
Small is the new big. I think small
Yeah,
is the new big.
I haven't really had to think about that kind of stuff. Well, even just the communication certainly is easier. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about as large scale communication. Communication amongst the the physicians, communication amongst the staff, communication amongst staff to patients. Like that is just all much easier
Yeah.
on this
Yep.
Yeah, that will always be more efficient than splitting it up and having it be remote, I think.
Also,
Yeah.
because we are self-owned and these are our patients and most of our staff have been with us for years, we care more and we're not
Yeah.
just
And it's
little-
obvious. Like,
yeah,
it's-
we're not just some cog in the machine. That we're highly motivated of like, no, we want to pick good patients to stay in the study. If they're considered,
Yeah.
all those patients and please stay in the study rather than not my problem. Sorry, Walgreens.
See, I think that's us small sites need to, it's easier for us to adopt tech and become more like them or like compete with them than for them to adopt empathy or I don't know what the tool is, but they're not going to, we have an easier time adopting to their strategies. I mean, we can outsource, we can say, hey, Ivan from Crankworks, let's run some ads and help me out with setting up a e-source. It's much easier to do that than for them to try to get one-on-one with their patients. I mean, I don't even know my pharmacist. If my pharmacist tells me to join a study, I'm like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah, agree.
Good conversation, guys. I think we need to do this again.
Sure.
We should do like a part 2 and part 3. Just keep following up maybe every 6 months or so to see your progress and just to touch base. And then we can network too. I don't have OBGYN, but we can network with different studies if you ever do things outside of OBGYN.
Yeah,
Okay.
obesity.
Yeah, obesity. I think
Yeah.
that's our common ground there. My PI loves that as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. If anyone wants more info, should they go to your Instagram? Is that the place to go?
Specifically for our research company, probably our website.
The
Our
website.
Instagram, I think, is more geared towards our medical practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one though. I follow your Instagram. Yeah, so I'll put the link to the website and the Instagram underneath this video and in the show notes. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And next time, maybe I'll be on the same video, dressed completely alike. There'll be a quiz every 6 months.
Man, it'll be like, so yeah, that's gonna be like really hard to conduct that interview. But thank you guys. You guys made it easy, and we'll definitely do more of these.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Catch you later. Bye bye.